Welcome to the Mortuary Masterclass, brought to you by the Champion Company, where preservation meets purpose, and every step is part of your journey to safer solutions. This is part one, and we're opening the Champion archives to revisit a lesson from 1978 that still has something to teach us today. Every profession has its archives. Sometimes it's an old textbook with handwritten notes in the margins. Sometimes it's a faded photograph hanging in the prep room. And sometimes it's a technical bulletin that reminds us the questions we're asking today aren't all that different from the ones embalmers were asking nearly 50 years ago. In September of 1978, Champion published a research bulletin called Poisons, a Brief Review. Long before podcasts, webinars, or online continuing education, Champion's Department of Research and Educational Programs was sharing practical guidance through printed technical bulletins. Their mission wasn't simply to discuss chemicals. It was to help embalmers understand challenging cases, apply sound science, and approach every preparation with greater confidence. Nearly 50 years later, that mission hasn't changed. As I read through this bulletin, something stood out to me. It wasn't just the chemistry, it was the way Champion encouraged embalmers to think. Because difficult cases have never been solved by following a recipe. They're solved by observation, by understanding tissue, by recognizing pathology, and by adapting your approach to the individual in front of you. That mindset is just as valuable today as it was in 1978. The bulletin begins with a simple question. What is a poison? Champion described a poison as any substance introduced into the body in sufficient quantity to cause injury, impair normal body function, or result in death. That's still a solid foundation. Today, toxicologists take that definition a step further. Rather than simply asking what the poison is, they ask how it works. What organs does it affect? How does it damage cells? Was it swallowed, inhaled, injected, or absorbed through the skin? Those answers help physicians treat the living. But for embalmers, our question is different. We're not treating the poison. By the time someone reaches our care, the poison has already done its work. Our responsibility is understanding what it left behind. How has it affected the tissues? Has circulation been compromised? Will there be dehydration, discoloration, edema, blistering, or leakage? Those are the questions that shape our preparation. Champion's bulletin grouped poisons into 5 practical categories: corrosive poisons, irritant poisons, systemic or neurotic poisons, poisonous gases, and food poisoning. Modern toxicology classifies these exposures much more specifically, often by chemical family, target organ, or mechanism of action. But from an embalmer's perspective, Champion's original framework still works remarkably well because it encourages us to think about what we can actually observe in the prep room. Take corrosive agents, for example. Strong acids and alkalis can cause extensive damage to the lips, mouth, throat, esophagus, and stomach. The 1978 bulletin notes that these tissues may become discolored, brittle, and prone to leakage. Modern emergency medicine continues to describe severe caustic injuries in much the same way. Tissue destruction can continue even after the initial exposure, meaning what we observe during preparation is often the result of both the poison itself and the body's response to it. That's an important distinction. Firm tissue isn't always healthy tissue, and damaged tissue doesn't always announce itself until you begin your preparation. The bulletin also discusses irritant poisons. Rather than destroying tissue immediately, these agents produce inflammation. Champion used arsenic as one example. While poisonings from arsenic are far less common today, inflammation remains something embalmers encounter in many forms, whether from toxic exposures, certain medications, disease processes, or prolonged medical intervention. The lesson still applies. Inflamed tissue deserves careful handling, not aggressive handling. Because once compromised tissue begins to separate, every step afterward becomes more difficult. And then we come to systemic poisons. These are the cases that can fool you. Externally, the body may appear relatively normal. Internally, however, the chemistry has changed dramatically. Sometimes the most challenging preparation isn't the one with the most visible trauma. It's the one where the greatest changes occurred beneath the surface. That's why observation has always been one of the embalmer's greatest tools. Not the bottle, not the machine, not even the chemistry. Observation, because chemicals don't embalm people. Embalmers do. Chemistry simply gives us better tools. And that may be the greatest lesson hidden inside a champion bulletin written nearly 50 years ago. Before selecting a chemical, before raising an artery, before mixing a solution, stop. Look, let the case tell you what it needs. In part 2, we're going to step into the prep room and walk through the actual arsenic case documented in Champion's 1978 bulletin. We'll compare the embalmer's observations with today's best practices and see just how many of those principles continue to guide difficult preparations nearly half a century later. For now, thanks for tuning into this special edition of the Mortuary Masterclass. Until next time, keep doing what you do best, championing the prep room with purpose, because embalmers matter, and every step forward is part of your journey to safer solutions. That's the champion difference.